Oh, it's live. We're live.
Broadcast is live. Okay, very good. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of the formerly known podcast, the Digital Faces podcast. All right, today you're going to realize that we renamed the podcast after one episode. As you can see from the skins and the new logo, it's called The Journey, Digital Faces podcast. And so me and Shannon are super excited to lay this new theme out, because that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today, right? The journey of Digital Faces itself. Also, too, we're going to get some folks to come on, right, and share their journey with us, and also some of the lessons learned throughout their business ventures. Okay, I got Savannah here. Shout out to Savannah, who's our graphic designer who helped design all of this. Great job, Savannah.
Yeah, and I just shared it on my social media too, so we should be good to rock and roll. If you guys are in, just comment. We can see we're on live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, so we can see all your comments as well. So just drop a comment if you guys can see us, hear us. But sounds good, man. So let's get started, man. Let's tell people why we started this and.
Absolutely. And yeah, and let's start with you, Shannon. So I met you, right? Yeah. The founder of Digital Faces. I think, it's appropriate, since this is the journey, right? Let's give us a little background. I know we touched on a little bit in the first episode, but why did you start Digital Faces? How did it come about? Where did the name come from? Tell us about those early days of kind of the origin of Digital Faces.
Man, I mean, long story short, it's probably not crazy, but I actually started Digital Faces like really first time, like probably like 3 months after high school. Like it was first started then because I was selling candy and doing a couple of different little businesses in high school. And I was telling my stepmom, actually, I was like, hey, I don't know what else I'm going to do after this. She's like, well, you're always on Facebook. Why don't you show people how to use Facebook, right? So I was like, all right, forget it, right? Like that sounds like a plan. And that was like when Facebook business pages just came out. Like they just came out. So I actually got an internship at a Century 21 real estate office doing their social media. And I think I charged them like $35 a month. I was like, they're like, how much do you charge for this? I'm like, I don't know, $35 a month. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was literally just like, I was reading, listening to ebooks and just literally testing things out on them. Like they really didn't even care. Like they were just like, whatever, do your thing. And then I was doing that, and then I had a job. Like I had 2 jobs on the side. But while I was doing that, another office, Keller Williams office, saw what I was doing and said, hey, we want you to do that for us here full time. So I kind of put Digital Faces on the shelf for a little bit. And the name Digital Faces came because I told myself, you know what? I think I saw a lot of these established businesses that were very confused about social media. And I just told myself, look, I truly believe that how they've been doing business for the last, 5-10 years, is still applicable in social media because people don't change, just the mediums do. They just need to know how to transfer those skills and those principles on a digital platform. And that's how I initially started my success. Was I was just asking people, hey, how were you doing business for the last 5-10 years? And I would just think about a digital version of that and just apply it, right? And so basically I was utilizing their expertise that they've been in their experience, and then just, taking those experiences and putting it on a digital platform. So, and I thought like, hey, their first impression, what makes you unique is your face. And I think I'm always trying to think about makes that company unique. What makes that company, what's that it factor, that unique value proposition that makes that company shine? And how do I just put that on a digital platform? Because that's something that they have that no one else is going to have. So that's where the name came from. And then, so, putting your company's face, right? What's unique on a digital platform. And then I, worked at Keller Williams, and then, I was always had Digital Faces in the back of my mind still. So one day I was just like, you know what, forget it. Like, so I, would work, and then on my lunch break, go to networking events, take calls. And then after work on, I was doing websites, I was doing social media marketing, Facebook ads just came out. So I was doing Facebook ads for a couple people, and it just started blowing up. And then once my income kind of leveled out with what I was doing on the side, I was like, all right, let's do this full time, and then moved out to LA, and then just started from scratch. So that's kind of like the beginning stages of it. So it was on and off for like a minute.
Nice. And I think it's interesting because when I think about social media, I almost feel like it is like the wild, wild west. Like I feel like there's no paved path, right? There isn't a school that everybody goes to learn how to use social media in a business kind of way. So I think that as I think about small business owners today, right, that are trying to make that jump, that say, hey, I want to get into social media and start to use it for my business, right? What are some tips, right, and tricks like that you can share with them? And I guess think about you, right? Think about how much you know today. If you think about it, the reality is you started with not knowing anything, right? Like you said, when the business pages first came out and all that. How did you get acclimated? Was there a course you took? What was it, just trial and error? What was that early process of learning? What did that look like for you? That maybe some business owners today can glean from.
Yeah. I mean, what I did was it was a little bit of both, right? I'll listen to podcasts, listen to, social media marketing websites, right? Social Media Examiner was a big one. And as well as apply it with other clients, right? So what I would do with clients is I would, some similar to what we do is say, hey, you know what? Just pay me for the ad spend and let me test, right? And what I would ask them is say, hey, what is your initial offer to clients? Like when you first meet them. And I would be like, okay, let me try to do that same offer, but on a digital version and see if it works, right? And for the most part, it did, right? I was like, oh, okay, wow, this is working, and they're seeing the results, and then I would just build on top of that success. So with business owners, I would definitely say, if you're starting off in social media, because there's two kind of business owners I'm seeing. There's the ones that already believe in marketing in general, right? And I see a lot of companies that they've never done any marketing ever, like in the past. It's all been referral based. So.
Oh, did we lose you? You're frozen. We'll give Shannon a second.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. So I would say there's two kind of business owners. There's the ones that already are marketing on, like, let's say magazines, mailers, things like that. I think it's going to be an easier transition for them as opposed to the ones that have just never marketed before. So I think if you've never marketed before, I would say give yourself some patience and some time, right? Like, don't expect, hey, I'm going to do this one ad, and it's going to just blow up. Right. So I would say definitely give yourself some cushion and give yourself some money to test and invest in your business. Right. Worst case, the ad doesn't work, but trust me, people are going to see what you're up to. Right. So if you have some spare money, some money to play with. Right. I would definitely, probably put some money into ads and target, on the back end. Now, if you have a little bit more money to hire an agency to do it, I would definitely, do that, because, I'm not gonna pull out my own teeth. I wouldn't going to get a dentist, right, to do it.
Right.
But also to create.
Uh-oh, I think we lost you one more time. You were about to say something about create.
I know, right? I would say create content. Right? Create content, because people buy from people, right? And kind of like how we met, right? Is just, even if no matter what budget you have, you can create content, no matter what kind of budget you're at, create content. Because now I think there was a stat that I was reading, actually doing some research, and back in 2009, they said that the average person looks at about 4 to 5 pieces of content before they decide to buy. And 2011, now it's up to 15 to 20 pieces of content before they decide to buy. Right. So first of all, do you even have that many pieces of content that people can actually consume? Because I'm seeing people already make a decision before they even call you. Right. Like they'll watch all your content and then call you and say, hey, I've already made my decision. Right. I get that a good amount. Right. Like, even for you, right? Hey, I've already made my decision on whether I'm going to do business with you or not based on the content I've seen. So you don't even have a chance to sell them. Your content's going to sell it.
Nice. No, that's a good point. And I think that that's just keeping up with the times, right? And what's going on with 2020 to your point, right? And how content, how social media is viewed. Here's my question for you. What's interesting is I heard an executive say this recently. An executive at a Fortune 500 company hired someone with experience in their department, and the person said, "Hey, why did you hire me?" And they said, "Hey, because you have 10 years of experience in this field that I'm trying to bring you into, right? I don't have that much experience. So I want to avoid the landmines that you already know about." Right. And so he recognized that experience was valuable. That's why they brought him on. So when I think about a business owner today getting involved with social media, there's going to be landmines, there's going to be trials and errors, there's going to be mistakes they make, right? Of course, there's a number of tips and tricks you can give them, but what's like a landmine or two that you could help a new business owner avoid, right? Like, don't fall into this trap. I went down this, I spent this much on an ad and this is what it cost. It's like, I wish I wouldn't have done it that way. Like, what's a landmine that you can help small businesses avoid, if that makes sense?
Oh yeah. I would say one of the biggest landmines is giving up after the first video and after the first campaign, right? Like, I see a lot of business owners say, "Oh, I've tried Facebook, didn't work. I've tried ads, didn't work. Or I've tried creating content, created 2 pieces of content, didn't bring me any business," right? Like, I've seen that happen a bunch. And there is a piece of perseverance that has to come into play, right? Like, you have to have consistency in your content, because I always say people aren't not checking for your next video, they're checking for your last video. Like, there's a piece of, hey, when is this person going to stop? Right? They're like, "Oh, see, I already see they're starting this new thing. See, it already fizzled out." Right? Like, I see that. And some people, one of the biggest landmines is never starting. We
That's a
hear
good
so
point.
many business owners saying, "Oh yeah, I've seen social media. Oh, I've seen this and I've seen that." And I just, it's like that, what is it? Jump rope thing. They're trying to find a way to get in and they just never jump in.
Right.
Right? Like, that's one of the biggest landmines, because to your point, this is the wild, wild west. And a lot of wisdom comes from participating, right? And then I've heard this from another influencer. They said, "Look, social media is one of the very few mediums where you actually get rewarded for participating." Right? You get rewarded for participating, because regardless, you're going to get feedback, and that
Right.
what you do with that feedback is up to you, right? And so,
Right.
how much content are you going to put out versus how much are you going to consume?
Right.
Right?
Right.
It's not
That's a good
rocket
point.
science.
Right.
It's not rocket
And that's why
science.
too,
So,
right? I think that and just adding a little bit of my 2 cents in there, I think what's been interesting is that it's coming up with the concept, the simple concept that anyone can do. I know for us, right? Like, for those that have been looking at our pages, the Digital Faces pages, we've come up with a Marketing Monday. It's a 2-minute show, right, where we bring some value, or a Q&A, right? We have a Q&A show that we're actually going to release that probably in the next week or so. And I think, to your point, that is a good landmine to avoid, not starting at all, thinking of just a basic, simple idea. It doesn't have to be a huge production, but something that brings value, right? And I think that, and I don't know if I mentioned this in the first podcast, my back has been hurting. And literally, I've been finding this YouTube channel where this chiropractor, is just literally adjusting people's backs. Like, he's not doing anything special. He's literally recording him. He's posting content, showing him and how he deals with his patients. And he's not in Southern California. He's out of state. But I was like, man, that's really valuable. That's really strategic, because if he was in Southern California, just by me watching him, and it's funny, it actually proves true your point. I've watched him 15, 16, 17 times, and I'm like, man, I would go to him. Like, he's actually pretty good at what he does, and I like the way he deals with his clients. And he's not even selling. He's not even saying, "Call me today." He's literally just bringing value, and I already want to do business with him if he was here.
and and that's the thing too, is some of the landmines I've even fell into, but I kept going, right? Like, you don't want to be that guy in the party that always asks for your number, right? Or like, hey, or that guy in the networking event that just gives you his business card, right? And says, hey, here's my business card. Let me know if you need my services. It's, hey, how,
Right.
How do I get to know you? Right. Like what are you struggling with? Right. Here's
Right.
some value that I'd love to give to you. Right.
Right.
Like I think that regardless now, it's not a TV commercial, right? You have to give value. And I know that word is thrown around so much, right? Like give value, give value, give value, but it's just not executed enough, right? We
Right.
scroll through Facebook and we see people trying to take, right? And I even think looking right now, I'm like, man, I need to make sure that we're pumping out more value, right?
Right.
Instead of just always asking. Even in our content ads, you even pointed out to me, right? You're like, hey, I think we're doing too much of, just like a one take, like, hey, we need this from you, right? Like, you're like, yeah, you're right. Like, we need to be giving out more value. And I'm still falling into some landmines, right? So it's not, and the difference between me and someone else is just because I keep trying, right? Like I'm out here, we're doing lives, we're doing shows, we're doing this, we're doing that, no matter what, I don't think anyone's immune to any more, any less lines. It's just, hey, keep adjusting and listening to the audience. And here's another thing I would say too, is just because you don't get any likes, comments, likes, or shares doesn't mean people aren't watching. I get calls, like the people that call us, like a client that we just got, right? Never liked or commented any of my videos. Any of them. Never. Just message me. Hey, wanted to meet with you, see what you're doing, right? So don't get caught up in the likes and the hearts and like, you know what I mean? Like don't get caught up in the engagement, right?
Right.
Those numbers, because I would say 80% of the people that have done business with me through social media rarely like or comment. They will watch all day long. And then one day out of the blue, I'll get a message or I'll get a call. Hey, we're ready. Right.
Right.
We're ready.
No, that's such a good point. That's such a good point. Yeah, no, that's I think that's very practical. And what's interesting, something you said really stood out to me is making sure that you're really bringing value. Making sure you're really bringing value. And I think that's where, what's funny is I was watching an Elon Musk interview and something he said is whenever he makes a new product, he says he actually tries to ignore the compliments and he looks for the negative feedback. So he actually goes to his friends and like, tell me what you don't like about my product. Because his point is he looks at that as a positive experience because that's like a focus group. It's like he wants to make sure that his product, right. is really valuable, right? Is on the right track. And it's funny how true that is, because I think that when you make a video, I think that sometimes it's easy because you're in it to think that it's a good video, but you should look for feedback. Maybe it's a friend, maybe it's somebody like, hey, tell me, did you really get something from this video? Did I really bring you value? And I think that like what we do with our clients, like what I think it's interesting that what we do with each other, but also we do with those that we work with is we sit there and we'll watch them make a video and we'll say, that's good. It was a little vanilla. It was a little surface. Like, let's go a little deeper, like, tell me why you're saying what you're saying. And it's funny, through this exercise, we really extract as much good content as possible. I want to put it on the record on the podcast here, and we'll repeat this later. I want to offer that, right? That for free for anybody that wants to like come on the podcast or message us, right? Maybe somebody has content right now that they're posting and they're wondering like, hey, is this the best content that I could be producing? I think what me and you have a good knack at is being able to look at a video, look at someone's content and be able to say it's lacking here, or you could put a little more meat there.
I want to dive into that. I think, what are some of the signs that you look at? Because even recording some of my videos, you're like, dude, that ain't it. That ain't it. And I was like, oh shit. And it's like, damn, really? Like, you're like, no. And I know because I'm trying to front for the camera, I can feel a little bit. And then you call it out every single time. You're like, nah, bro, like, let's do that again. I'm not putting that out. Like, what are some things? Is it the facial expression? Is it just a feeling? Like, I just don't feel good? Or like, do you see body language? What is?
You know what's funny? It's a mixture of two things. For me, like in my business life, right? For the past 10 years, I've been huge on a feeling. I'm always thinking about what feeling am I creating? And I'm very sensitive to that of myself. But I guess I didn't really realize it until I got into filmmaking about 5 years ago. I'm really sensitive of picking that up from others too. Like, what feeling are you creating? Like, let me give you an
Mhm.
example. If somebody says that I'm an expert, let's just say, use this as a random example. If they're saying or they're trying to say, I'm an expert in the field of cameras, that's a statement, but really there's no meat on that bone. So rather than saying that you are an expert or just saying whatever you're trying to prove, like, show it. So to me, right, using that as a real practical example, if you want to show that you're an expert, we'll break down elements of the camera that the common person wouldn't know, right? Like, actually give valuable tips, go into the subject a little deeper, right? Bring us something that we can't just YouTube quickly, or we just can't flip one page and find out a fact. It's like little elements like that, right? It's where it's like creating a feeling. And I think that for me, it's being able to sit and watch someone's content and be able to, like, what feeling are they creating? And I know that's kind of I'm not sure if that's a clear answer, but for me, that's what I feel like my knack is, right? Being able to listen to someone and say, like, okay, we're there, but we're on the right track, but we're not quite there. And often I'll tell you what I'm looking for is the why. You say you're an expert, or you're trying to show you're an expert. Why? How do I know that? Like, what everybody says they're an expert, right? But when I think about this, when I watch that chiropractor, he doesn't even use a lot of words, but with his videos, what is he showing? He's showing why I should go to him. And you know why?
Mhm.
Is because he treats all of his patients, the right way. He takes the time. He listens. Every show he does, they'll sit there and they'll ramble on, right? About, like, oh, my problems, my back, my this, it. He sits there and listens, and the patience you see is like, that's appealing. Because think about this. What is the feeling most doctors create? Most doctors, you try to tell
Anxiety.
them, yeah, most doctors, you try to tell them anything, they look like they're trying to leave the door. They don't even want to listen. Okay, yeah, okay, a $15 copay. Okay, you're good. Nothing. But it's just like little things that create feeling, and so it's not to get too much into philosophical talk, but that's kind of like my thing. I'm always looking for, one, what feeling are you creating? What's the why that you're saying directly or indirectly? And I think that's just one of many little tactics that I use to kind of extract as much value as possible. And that's what I do with you, right? And you've experienced that for our 5-6 weeks that we've been working together. Is I'm always trying to have us dive a little deeper. I know that social media well, but I want to extract, right, all of that knowledge and share it with the audience so they can feel it. I want them to feel that you've been in business for 10 years or 5 years or however long. And I think that is a skill that some people have naturally, but I think sometimes those need to be kind of drawn out. And so I think that that's definitely something I want, I'm putting on the table now, that, if somebody wants assistance with their videos, if they want, hey, I made this video, is it good? Like, they should send it in. I think we should make that a part of a segment. That would be cool eventually, where we can say, like, hey, here's the video. Let's extract from it. Maybe we grab some stuff online too. Maybe we'll grab some random ads or videos and actually critique them, so that maybe it can bring some value to the listeners.
I like that. Like, what's value and what's not. Like, here's an
Right.
example of what we don't think is value and what we think is value. You
Exactly.
know,
Exactly.
I like
See, on a live show, Shannon, we create sub shows within a show.
there you go. See, and people are seeing it live. So, and then this
Exactly.
is an experience for me too, doing a live show and putting out this content. This is an example of, like, hey, the only difference between me and someone else is, like, look, I'm just doing it, and I'm just going to show
Right.
you, like, hey, this is, I'm going to the path, and I'm just showing you, hey, this is where the path leads you, right? Just letting you
Right.
know, like,
Right.
right,
Right. Exactly.
and
It's funny, and I'll share one more thing. You made me just think about it. I was just doing a shoot. And someone was doing a product review. Okay, they were reviewing a product, and what we collaboratively decided on was, okay, how are we going to segment this product review? And so we went with the idea we're going to do hardware, we're going to do features, and we're going to do who this product is best for. So right off the top, right, the collaborative, we were able to have segments. So then when they spoke on camera, it came across in an organized fashion. I think many people that I see that start making videos, they don't have a structure. You don't got to be Good Morning America. You don't have to be Steven Spielberg, but a good story is a good story. And a good story normally has a 3-act structure. So I'm not saying I always use that, but that's just a prime example of when I work with ones, I want to make sure that it feels like a good story. And at the end of the day, anybody who makes content, this is a valuable piece of info. Story is king. Okay.
So what's the structure of a story?
Story is a basic story is a 3-act structure, which is the most basic is a beginning, middle, and end. But I'll tell you, for the sake of this show, to me, the 3 parts is a rhythm, and that creates a feeling. So if I were to talk about a product and say, hey, today I'm going to talk to you about 3 aspects of this product. I'm going to talk about the hardware, I'm going to talk about the features, and I'm going to talk about who it's best used for. That rhythm felt good. That rhythm felt good. But what's funny is sometimes I'll see online ones like, all right, today I'm going to talk about a product, and today I'm going to talk about the hardware. Okay. All right, let's talk about the hardware. And it's like, you go into it and it's like, it's good, but it felt like something's missing. It felt like, but when they include these 3, act structure, so to speak, it makes the rhythm and the feel of it. Sometimes I encourage to say it blatantly, to say what we're going to do. Other times I'm hiding that structure without really letting the audience know that's what we're doing. But there's some reason, I guarantee you this, start looking at videos, look at commercials, look at movies. Some just feel good. And it's not by coincidence. They feel good for a reason because they're applying certain elements. And so, not to go on a tangent, but I think that I want the audience to know, right, that there is a skill set to making content. You don't have to be Steven Spielberg, but I think with a few little tips and tricks, any video can go from 0 to 5 to 6, and if they have, the chops to make a good video, then we can get it to an 8, 9, 10. But I think you'd agree in this, in social media, you don't need to be a 10 every time. You could produce a whole bunch of 5s and 6 and still get great results. We see that all day long, quite frankly. So
exactly, because I think there's still people that aren't playing the volume game. So, someone that's a 5 could still pump out a lot of volume, and there's still space. I don't think maybe in like 5-10 years, I'm not sure if it's going to change or not, but yeah, if you could just keep putting out, eventually you're going to be good. But yeah, I think I love that. Like when you're creating a video, create like you told me buckets, because I'm always like, all right, cool. Let me just get it. But you're like, no, when you're creating a video, buckets, right? I think you put like, the why, the how, the what, or the beginning, middle, end. Always have structure to what you're trying to say. Not exactly a script, but just structure. Right.
And the rhythm is felt. And that's where it goes back to creating a feeling, and so we'll talk, more about that later. But I encourage, anybody that wants help with that, or they want us to look at their video, or they want, tips on anything. I think that's the purpose of this show, is I really want to help small business owners. I'm a big believer that, there's more happiness in giving than there is in receiving, right? And I really believe that. And I think that's why me and you have a good partnership too, because I know you really believe in that. And so I really want to extend that, right, to our few listeners right now, and hopefully our multitude of listeners later. But I think that's really needed in the market today. There's not a lot of people that can give good feedback when it comes to those kinds of things, and I think that we're not the only ones for sure, but I think I want to be amongst those that, hey, are willing to give the time and effort. I just sat with an editor. It's so crazy. Like, quick story, and then we'll wrap it up here. I just sat with an editor. He edited a video, and he was actually interviewing to join Digital Faces. and he didn't get the job, right? It just wasn't working out. But the reality is we were able to tell him, and what I appreciated is we were able to tell him, hey, this is why you're not getting the job, right? But let me tell you what you have to do, like what you have to work on in the next 3 to 6 months to put you in a position to get the job. Like, you know, so we were able to tell him specifically, like, you're missing this element, you're missing that element, you got to add a little bit of this, you know. And we really were able to help him in that way. And right, what he had a great attitude. He was like, all right, I'm gonna get to work, I'm gonna work on those things, and then I'm gonna come back, right, and then reapply. And we're excited about that. But to me, I guess that's what excites me is, to me, I hate when I'm dealing with something and I can't get better, right? And it's like I can't figure out why am I not doing it, and then somebody comes and they help me and they say what it is you're missing X, Y, and Z. And it's crazy that when I apply that X, Y, it's like, oh, now I got, oh, you know, over that hump or over that hurdle, you know. And so just as much as I like someone doing that for me, and I'm sure for you, I just want us to do the same for everyone else. So
No, and
that's
I
my
think a
piece for
value
today.
is sharing our struggles too, right? Like, hey,
Right,
our goal is we want to produce content every day, right? We want to make sure that we're world class in not only content but ad strategy. So, you know, sharing like, hey, this is what, like, I'm seeing a lot of videos. I don't know if you've seen those videos of like, hey, this is where I went wrong in my 20s, or hey, this, you know, I got fired from this job, this is what would happen, or hey, I got divorced and here's why. Like
right,
that's value too. Like, hey, this is why I
right,
failed, right? And those videos are
right,
actually getting, I see like they're like 1.2 million. People want to
right,
see
right,
like how I got
right,
there. So, you know, definitely I want to share, like, you know, maybe not now, but later on, it's like, hey, you know, we both struggle as well. It's just, you know, even in what
absolutely,
we're trying to do, and definitely, you know, like sometimes I'm like, oh, I know everything about social media. Well, that's because in every room that I'm in, I know everything about social media. But to your point, it's like, hey, I need to learn more. I need to learn more. And the ads that worked for me and my clients the last 6 months doesn't mean that they're going to work, you know what I mean, for the next 6 months. And you're always having to, the great thing about social media, you know, and is also the maybe the challenge is like things are always changing, so you always have to be evolving. The thing that I think, you know, people can stick to is that human nature, right, doesn't change. I
right,
think that that's
right,
one thing that you can rely on is human nature doesn't change. Now the platform may change, the rules on that platform may change, right,
right.
the atmosphere may change, but human nature doesn't change, right? So that's something
Absolutely,
that
you're
you
so right on that. So I'm
fall
excited
back
about that.
on.
Hey, speaking of flaws, one of the flaws that me and Shannon will put it on record is making our team meeting on time, and our team meeting is at 10, and
Oh
it's
my gosh.
10:06.
Okay.
So we got to jump
Yeah.
off, everyone. Hey, I hope you enjoyed episode number 2. There's going to be a lot more of this, and yeah, we hope to have some guests on too, where we can hear their story and also maybe bring some value to them, and they bring some value to us. So thanks everyone for listening. Shannon, great episode 2, man. I don't know how to log off now. This is live. Where's our moderator?